Okay guys, I'm going to list every single meta composition out there, how to build it, and I'll also talk a little bit about utility slots, which are basically units that are not part of your core units that you can add in for various reasons. Before we get to that though guys, this month I'm giving away an Xbox One. All you need to do is go to my videos, like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and then, very importantly, leave a comment. Today I'd like you to leave a comment about what your favourite composition is and why. At the end of the month, which will be at the end of July, I will select a winner from the comments across all of my videos and give them an Xbox. If you want to get involved with more giveaways, my good friend Claytano is currently giving away a tablet and will be giving away something every month, so go to youtube.com/Claytano for more giveaways. So, let's get on with the video. Most of the utility slots will be taken up by something called Storm Shaman. It's probably the best utility pick in the game, but there are instances where you're going to want to look for things like Blight Sorcerer or Dark Spirit, for instance. But I'm going to list all of the core units, which are the units that you need to make the comp work, and I'm going to list all of them linked to this app, nightly.app. It's a great website in the description below. So you'll be able to click the link, take a screenshot of those units, learn the composition, and build it for yourself. These are not... Well, I'm listing them in order which I think are strongest to weakest, but they're all very strong compositions. Don't take it to heart. Every composition has its own strength in a certain way. I'm just listing it in the order that I think is strongest to weakest. So I'm going to start off with what I think is the strongest composition in the game, which is Knights, Glacier, and Warlock. And so we'll start with that. So we need 4 Knights. So the Knights that we want to use are Lightblade Knight, we want to use Evil Knight, we need Frost Knight, and Hell Knight. Okay? So those are the 4 Knights that I think make the optimum Knight, Glacier, Warlock build. Now we obviously need the Glacier clan, so we need Berserker, we need Defector, and we also need Desperate Doctor. That brings us up to a total of 7. We have 1 Warlock. We want to activate the Agursis bonus, so we want Soul Reaper, and then, basically, the optimum... So the optimal Warlock to make your 3 Warlock bonus is going to be Dark Spirit. So this right here is the optimal way to build this composition. You start off by going for your Knight bonus, then you pick up the Berserker. So you really want to get to your 4 Knights as quickly as possible. Now you don't need to use Lightblade, Frost Knight, Hell Knight, Evil Knight exactly. Any 4 Knights will do. Then you get to level 8, you bring on your 4 Glacier clan, you get to level 9, and then you swap things out to get to 3 Warlocks. So you can often end up at level 8 with like 5 Knights and 4 Glacier, but by level 9, this is the optimal way to build the composition. Dark Spirit can be taken out for Venomancer, and that is perfectly okay. Dark Spirit is harder to find, Venomancer is not so hard to find. You can also take, if you're really struggling, take Venomancer out for Shadow Devil. Shadow Devil, it's easier to find than both of them. Any Warlock will do. The optimal is Dark Spirit, then it is Venomancer, then it is Shadow Devil. So this is, in my opinion, the strongest composition in the game. There is another way to build this composition, however, and that includes getting rid of Lightblade Knight, and, in my opinion, getting rid of Hell Knight. And then you bring on, let me just double check. You can bring on Dragon Knight and Agali Knight. So bringing on Dragon Knight and Agali Knight, you do need some mana generation on Dragon Knight, so you'll need something like a Magica Crystal or Nether Essence or anything like that, and ideally get him to level 2. This gives you a human bonus, so you have the ability to silence. I do think this is slightly weaker in terms of damage output. Sorry, let's get rid of Shadow Devil, because ideally you don't want Shadow Devil. You would like to have, obviously, Dark Spirit. This is, I think, slightly weaker because your damage is more single target focused, so you're relying solely on your Berserker and then your Dragon Knight for damage, and Dragon Knight takes a little while to ramp up. So I think this is actually weaker than the previous version, but you still have the Agursis bonus, which I think is important from Evil Knight and Soul Reaper. So this is like another way to build Knight, Glacier, Warlock. So those are the, in my opinion, 2 variations of the strongest composition, the first of which was stronger. There is 1 space for a utility slot. Usually, my utility slot would go to this Storm Shaman. I think in almost every circumstance, Storm Shaman is the best utility pick in the game right now. So if you're ever in doubt about what to put into a composition and you have an extra space, Storm Shaman. 100% of the time, because it's just so good. It's just a great pick right now. So those are the 2 variations of the strongest build, Knight, Glacier, Warlock. The next strongest composition in the game, in my opinion, is going to be Six Hunters. Six Hunters is the strongest composition in the game outside of Night Glacier Warlock. And I think the way that you build this is pretty obvious. You need the Six Hunters. But let me talk about the early game, because obviously Six Hunters is a composition that you can build from the early game. So let's talk about that. I think the core units for the early game hunters is going to be Dwarf Sniper and Wind Ranger. Then it's up to you about whether you put in Egursus Ranger or Skull Hunter, both of which are fine, but getting that 3 hunter bonus with Dwarf Sniper and Wind Ranger is really important. Skull Hunter gives you more of a front line, Egursus Ranger gives you more DPS from the back line. Now, if you want to go to 6 hunters, you obviously then have to bring in Siren and Tsunami Stalker. Tsunami Stalker is obviously harder to get, level 8 minimum, or level 9 to give yourself the best chance of getting Tsunami Stalker because he's a legendary. But what do you put in front then? Well, actually, there are a couple of options. And this is going to be the first variation and probably what I consider the strongest variation of hunters. And that is going to be Cave Clan, full Cave Clan 6 hunters. So this is a level 9 composition. It gives you 1 space for a utility slot. That utility slot can be something else, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this is in my eyes, the strongest 6 hunter composition with a full tanky front line. You do lack a little bit of CC is the only... Well, no, you don't actually. You've got plenty of CC. It is harder to get to because obviously, you've got a 4-cost unit in there, 2 4-cost units. You've got to get all of the fairly contested warriors as well, including Red Axe and Swordman. So it's pretty hard to get to, but also quite consistent because if you get just 2 stars of them, it can be really powerful in the late game. So that is my Hunter Cave Clan. I'm just going to copy that link down so I can put it in the description. That's my Hunter Cave Clan bonus. And then talking about utility picks, there are a couple of utility picks that you can put in there. You can probably, ideally, want to go at level 10 for something like Pirate Captain. Because that gives you the warrior bonus, because you have the Red Axe and the Swordman already. That would give me the best form of layered CC. So Pirate Captain coming in as a utility pick for this is fine. Now, speaking of Pirate Captain, we could actually get rid of the rest of the Cave Clan bonus, and we could go something like this. We could go Werewolf, and then we could also bring in, where is it? Doom. And this would give us a tanky front line. This is the best 3 warrior combo that you can shove into pretty much any composition. And then that would let you have a space for something like Storm Shaman, which would give you the Cave Clan bonus on 2 members, and Storm Shaman is a good utility pick. So I'm going to copy this link down as well. So this is just variations of the 6 hunter. And then we have one more variation of the 6 hunter. If we get rid of these guys, and then we go into this, it is the Druid variation, which is Warpwood Sage, Whisper Seer, and Razor Claw. You would get the Feathered bonus from this because you've got Warpwood Sage and Whisper Seer, and then you have space for a utility pick. Most of the time, that's probably better off being Storm Shaman again, but depending on what you're facing against, always consider Dark Spirit as a really good utility pick, because Dark Spirit, for instance, is good against Knights. But for the most part, you're going to probably find more success relying on Storm Shaman. It's easier to get, you don't rely on getting a legendary, and this is also a pretty solid hunter composition. I'm just going to put the link down for that so we can put it in the description. And so those are the variations on the hunter build. So those are the 3 variations on the 6 hunter build, of which are all really good. And again, the links are going to be in the description. So we'll go on to the next one. So the next variation we're going to look at is my favorite, which is possibly the 3rd strongest composition in the game. Very close between 6 hunters and mages is the 3 mage build. And the 3 mages that you're looking for as a core are the Source, Thunder Spirit, and Tortola Elder. Now, this gives you your core mage build. Then you can build whatever you want from there. So I'm going to list my favorite build for the core mage build, which is going to be the full, is going to be this one. So it's going to be Doom, it's going to be Pirate Captain, and it's going to be Werewolf. And then on the side of that, you add a Storm Shaman. To give yourself a utility pick, so it's a really good level 7 composition. And basically, you can add whatever you want from this position. I like to sometimes add a Wind Ranger, so I add a Wind Ranger for the extra damage. I often rely on a Dark Spirit to give myself a better matchup versus Knights, for instance. And I can also consider a Blight Sorcerer, which gives me a good matchup versus Glacier. If I was to build the optimal composition, I would get rid of Wind Ranger, I'd have Blight Sorcerer, I'd have Dark Spirit, and I'd also have Helicopter, which is a lot of legendaries, but that's like this is like the optimal Mage composition. But I am only going to link this base, and then you can decide what you put in after that. You can even have things like Flaming Wizard, you can have things like Water Spirit and Stone Spirit, just to give yourself the early Spirit bonus. But this is the base, in my opinion, high roll Mage comp. And again, you can add utility picks to this however you want. Another really popular Mage frontline is, as you might have guessed, given that I like Storm Shaman, is the full Cave Clan frontline. This is slightly easier to get. I'm going to list this down as well. Slightly easier to get because you're not relying on lots of big 4-cost high rolls. And again, you've got space for 2 utility picks. If you're running a Mage comp, I would always recommend a Dark Spirit. The reason I would recommend a Dark Spirit is because it's good against Knights, and Mage's one weakness is going to be Knights. So this is another variation of the Mage build that works really well. The final Mage build that I'm going to talk to you about is actually the 6 Mage build. The 6 Mage build is very interesting. I'm going to just add it in now. So that would give us 6 Mages right here. I think Flaming Wizard is something that you can consider as well, but you do need Ogre Mage, otherwise you don't really have a front line. And then, basically on the front of this, you need CC, so I would add Pirate Captain, and then you can basically add whatever you want after that. You can add Tsunami Stalker, you can... Oh, wait a second, Werewolf's not supposed to be in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, you've got Pirate Captain. You can add Flaming Wizard if you like, but you basically just need to add a front line. If you really high roll, you can go Werewolf, and then you can go Doom, and that would give you a really solid front line in front of 6 Mages. And then your last place is for like Dark Spirit or Storm Shaman. So I'm going to copy down this as the high roll 6 Mage comp. You can also go Cave Clan on the front of 6 Mages, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can replace Blight Sorcerer for anything, by the way, any other Mage, likely Flaming Wizard, but Blight Sorcerer is the best, so we'll keep that in. And 6 Mage is pretty good. So, you know, if you want to run 6 Mage, I always think running 3 Mage is more consistent, but if you want to run 6 Mage, there it is. Another really strong composition is going to be Dragon Knights. So Dragon Knights are basically 6 Knights, so you need every single Knight, and then you add the 2 dragons in as well, which is going to be Venom and Shining Dragon. This is a level 8 composition. It is a very strong level 8 composition, but it does particularly rely on you getting 2-star Dragon Knight. Without a 2-star Dragon Knight, this does become a little bit less powerful, but it's a very good defensive composition with plenty of offensive capabilities. Because one of the weaknesses of Dragon Knight is he doesn't transform quickly enough into the fight. Well, with dragons, he will transform directly at the start of the fight. That gives you 2 spaces for utility picks. Again, my favorite utility pick right now is Storm Shaman. The other utility picks that you can consider is something like Dark Spirit. And that would give me like the sort of the best, you know, late game that I could hope for. But this is the base composition, so I'm going to link that right there. And it's pretty basic. There is also a Dragon Mage composition, which is very good. I'm going to just figure out that now, and I think, give me a second. So you have a Mage in Shining Dragon. I think you get rid of these 2 Knights. You go for the 4 Knights here. You go for Shining Dragon, you go for Venom, and then you need to find, I think it's Thunder Spirit, and then it's kind of whatever mage you want, really. Thunder Spirit is obviously just one of the most powerful mages there is. You could go for the Source to make sure that everybody gets more HP. With dragons, you immediately get your abilities cast, so it's not so important. The Source isn't as important. I think if I was to pick someone, I'd probably pick Tortola Elder. It just gives me the most damage, but Tortola Elder doesn't generate his ultimate very quickly. You could also go for Flaming Wizard, who does generate her ultimate a little bit more quickly, but you could go for the Source as well. It's always worth having the Source just because it will give everybody their mana regen quick, and it will help Shining Dragon, who I've just lost. It will help Shining Dragon, who has a very short ult cooldown, get it up more quickly. So this is probably like I would say this is like the most consistent Dragon Mage strat right here. You could get rid of Thunder Spirit for Tortella Elder, and that would give you 1, 2, 3, 4 human bonus. So I think that's probably better right here. So this is probably the best Dragon Mage comp. Sorry, I was kind of thinking aloud when I did that. But this is probably the best Dragon Mage comp that you could go for, because you get the massive human bonus, and you also get a lot of AoE damage. So this is a really, really good Dragon Mage comp. But those mages can be swapped in for whatever works for you. And Dragon Mage is a viable strategy that you can do too. You just got that knight as a front, those knights as a front line, and then you just kind of transition into more Dragon Magey, which is super good too. So those are the Dragon comps, Dragon Knight and Dragon Mage. Very, very good comps if you want to run them. The next comp we're going to look at is another really strong meta composition, and that is Beast Warrior. So I'm going to get the warriors in first, starting with Tusk Champion and Werewolf. That gives you 2 beasts already. Then you want Pirate Captain, Berserker, Doom, an Abyssal Guard. That will give you the 6 warrior bonus, and then you're just looking for either 2 more beasts, which I think Poisonous Worm and Razor Claw are the optimum. So you've got your total composition built here. You could also get rid of Razor Claw for Lord of Sand, for instance, if you haven't, so this one guy here, if you can't find Razor Claw and you can't upgrade him as quickly. But this is like the optimal Beast Warrior composition. This is the one that's going to do the most damage in the late game. And then you have spaces for utility picks. That utility could be Glacier to get your Berserkers to rolling, but I honestly just prefer to go for something like Storm Shaman again. I also like to go for something like Dark Spirit as well. So those are the utility picks that I would consider with this build. But Beast Warrior is a very, very good build. It's quite high rolly, of course. You can also get rid of Razor Claw and Poisonous Worm, and you can go for Siren. So you get the nausea bonus, and then you can add Storm Shaman for the extra CC as well. So you lose out on Wormy Boy, but you still have a really strong warrior frontline, and then you also have the magic resistance from the Marine bonus, and then you have the Storm Shaman, which it gives you a better matchup versus mages. I'm just going to write that one down as well. So those are the 2 variations of Beast Warrior that I think work really well. And again, it gives you more space for utility slots. These compositions peak at level 8, which is important because everybody usually gets level 8 at round 21, and you should still be in the game by round 21. So those are the Beast Warrior compositions that I think are really good. Pretty simple. They're quite easy compositions to build. Totally go to town on those particular compositions. So a bit more of a late game Beast Warrior build that I forgot to talk about is the 3 Warlock, 2 to 4 Beast, 6 warrior build. You can bring in another beast at level 10 if you wanted, and you can sub out Poisonous Worm for another warlock, or Soul Reaper for another warlock, or even Desperate Doctor for whatever warlock you like. Venomancer and Dark Spirit work perfectly fine. Really strong late game Beast Warrior build. A little bit harder to build than the other Beast Warrior builds, requires a bit more high rolling, but it gives you huge amounts of sustain, and actually gives you really, really good matchups versus things that you would usually be weak to. So this is a very, very, very good Beast Warrior build, and I'm going to put that also in the description below. Okay, so probably the easiest beginner build that everybody tries to go for is Goblin Mech. So you obviously need every single goblin in the game. There are only 6, Devastator being your key unit because it's the one that basically makes or breaks this composition. And then you have a couple of other slots to work with. Well, I think, personally, the best build in the game is with Soul Reaper and then Dark Spirit. This gives you the 3 Warlock bonus with Venomancer, and this is nigh on unstoppable for most people to beat. It's one of the most insane late game compositions out there. And then you have another slot where I would just suggest bringing in Storm Shaman, and I think this is probably one of the strongest Goblin Mech compositions out there. I wouldn't suggest going many other Goblin Mech comps in the late game. I would say that this is probably the strongest Goblin Mech composition out there in the late game. You definitely don't need to go Warlocks, but I just think that Warlocks are infinitely better. Helicopter can work, but you've already got the full mech bonus, so you don't really need Helicopter. And your magic damage can come from Storm Shaman, for instance, with his ultimate. So this in my eyes like an ideal level 9 Goblin Mech Warlock comp, and the reason I say level 9 is because it's easier to rush level 9 when you're playing goblins, because you need to find Devastator, and level 9 is going to be your most easily achievable level to make sure you're finding Devastator consistently. So that's the Goblin Mech Warlock comp. I think it's the best Goblin Mech comp out there in the late game, and so I'd recommend trying to strive towards this. So the next one I'm going to show you is the feathered build. I think there's only one good feathered build in the game, and that is Feathered Assassin. So you need Shining Assassin, you need Shadowcrawler, you need Taboo Witcher, Warpwood Sage, Wind Ranger, and Whisper Seer. That will give you the 6 feathered. I don't think any of those are particularly interchangeable. And then you can just basically bring on Razorclaw. And that gives you a level 7 spiking feathered build with 3 assassins. Sorry, I only got 2 assassins, so I need... My bad, guys. Then you like to bring on Phantom Queen. So this is like the level 8 spike for this team. I think it is a good composition. It's very good versus Knights because they dodge all the basic attacks, and Knights are very reliant on basic attacks. I think, personally, this is the best feathered build you can go. You can go Feathered Dragon, but I genuinely think dragons are better suited to other compositions, and I think Feathered Assassin is the best feathered build out there. It's also the best build to lose streak into because druids are really easy to upgrade and get to 3-star, so you can lose streak and get 3 stars very quickly. So this is a great build. It gives you 2 utility slots, again, Storm Shaman, Dark Spirit, Blight Sorcerer, whatever you want to add in there, but this is probably the best feathered composition that you can get in the game, so I wouldn't stray too far from this, and these are all the units that you need to make it work. The next composition I'm going to show you is really easy. This is probably one of the easiest builds for new players to build. It's literally 9 warriors. I can just put in every single warrior here. There we go. Yeah, 9 warriors. It's a lot of damage reduction. Quite hard to build, quite hard to max out. But it's generally one of the tankiest builds in the game. Really only loses to mages. It beats 6 hunters because of how much damage reduction you've got. So yeah, this is just a really solid 9 warrior comp. I don't usually go 9 warrior, to be honest with you. So I'm going to talk about the other warrior composition that I like to go, and that is Warrior Glacier. Warrior Glacier, I think, is really strong. So I get rid of Red Axe, I get rid of Swordman, and I go for this core, and then I have Glacier. I just basically have the Glacier package. It is a level 9 build, and it only gives you 1 space for... It only really gives you 1 space for a utility pick. I get rid of the Cave Clan bonuses because I don't think they're ideal. And then I've got some really high-performing individual units with the Beast bonus as well. So this is the Warrior Glacier. It's not as strong as Glacier and... it's not as strong as Glacier and Knights, but it's still very good. Right, okay, so we'll move on to the next one. Now, I'm going to show you now the Assassin build. I don't really like Assassins, but this is the best 6 Assassin build that you can get in the game. Shining Assassin, Shadowcrawler, Phantom Queen, Water Spirit, Lord of Sand, Abyssal Crawler, Warpwood Sage, and Razorclaw. Level 8 spiking, it gives you the opportunity to maybe go into... Marine with Abyssal Crawler, so you could pick up something like a Tsunami Stalker. You can get rid of the Druids and sub in things like Stone Spirit, Water Spirit, and then try and find a Dark Spirit at level 9 to get the full Spirit bonus. But honestly, this is the easiest one to achieve and the most consistent Assassin strategy that you can build. You get plenty of CC with Lord of Sand. You get a lot of damage across the board with Phantom Queen and Water Spirit, plenty of tankiness from Warpwood Sage and Razorclaw, and Shining Assassin and Shadowcrawler are your main sort of big damage dealers, as well as Shining Assassin being one of your main outs versus mages because she takes basically loads of damage. So this is the best Assassin composition. Don't think Assassins are that good, but I'm going to just link it because Assassins definitely can snowball. You often start off with a Soulbreaker, get rid of him eventually because he falls off in the late game like most goblins. Unless you go full Goblin build, of course. And this gives you the opportunity for 2 utility slots. Again, Storm Shaman, because you're kind of weak to mages most of the time. And then you're also weak to Knights, so Dark Spirit. Those would be the 2 ideal utility slots for this build.